She held up 3 fingers. That's it. That's what broke me. Not a speech, not a scream, not some long dramatic confrontation with tears and accusations and doors slamming shut. Just 3 fingers, held steady in the air between us on a sidewalk in suburban Texas, while the streetlights buzzed overhead. And I stood there like a man who'd just been told the ground he was standing on had never been solid. 3 fingers, index, middle, ring. And then she said in a voice so calm it made the words hit twice as hard, "Kyle is the 3rd boyfriend she's taken from me." I didn't understand at first. My brain heard the words but refused to do anything with them. 3 taken from me. They just hung there in the air like something falling in slow motion that hadn't hit the ground yet. Then they hit. And when they did, every single thing I'd done in the past year, every choice, every lie, every night I'd spent with the wrong woman, while the right one sat across the street watching it happen again, all of it rearranged itself inside my head so fast, I thought I was going to be sick right there on the pavement. I need to tell you this story from the beginning. Not because it makes me look good, it doesn't. I'm the villain in most of it, and the fool in the rest. But I need you to understand how a man can stare directly at the truth, have it handed to him by a woman who loved him, and still choose the lie because the lie was prettier. My name is Nathan. I was 26 years old. I'd just moved onto a quiet street in Fort Worth, Texas, and I was about to fall in love with the most genuine woman I'd ever met. Then I was going to destroy her, not because she did anything wrong, not because we weren't happy, but because a girl walked out of a car one Sunday afternoon carrying 2 backpacks and a smile that I would later learn was a weapon she'd been using her whole life. Her name was Tara. And by the time I understood what she was, I had already done exactly what she needed me to do. I'd broken Michelle's heart, handed it over on a plate, gift wrapped in my own stupidity. And the worst part, the part that still keeps me awake at 3 in the morning staring at the ceiling, is that Michelle tried to warn me. She saw it coming from the second that car pulled up. She knew. She'd lived through it before, twice before, and I looked at her, the woman who was trying to save me from the exact thing that was about to happen, and I thought she was being dramatic. 3 fingers, 3 boyfriends, 3 times the same woman walked into Michelle's life and walked out carrying everything that mattered to her. I was number 2, and I didn't even know I was playing a game until it was already over. I moved to Dawson Lane because my father got relocated. That's it. No grand plan, no fresh start, no running from anything. My parents needed help settling into a rental house in a suburb outside Fort Worth, and I had nothing better going on, so I came along. 26 years old, single, working a warehouse job I didn't love but didn't hate enough to quit, and carrying the general feeling that my life was idling in neutral while everyone around me seemed to be in drive. The street was exactly what you'd expect. Cookie-cutter houses, patchy lawns, driveways that told you who was home and who wasn't. The kind of neighborhood where people notice a new car before they notice a new face. My parents liked it. I didn't have an opinion. It was a roof and a bed and a place to figure out what came next. The first week, I was hauling boxes from the garage into the house when I saw her, Michelle. She was walking a little brown terrier down the sidewalk, right past our front yard. Dark hair pulled up. Sunglasses. This easy, unhurried way of moving, like she had nowhere to be and had made peace with that a long time ago. I stopped mid-step. Literally stood there holding a box of kitchen stuff, watching her pass like I'd never seen a woman walk a dog before. She lived directly across the street, close enough that I could see her porch light from my bedroom window. I moved fast, too fast. The second time we talked, 3 days later, I walked over while she was watering her plants and asked her out. No build-up, no strategy, just a 26-year-old guy with 0 patience and a complete inability to play it cool. She set the hose down, looked at me, and said something I should have paid more attention to. She told me she'd just gotten out of a relationship a few months back and wasn't looking to jump into anything. Not with me, not with anyone. Most guys would have backed off. I didn't. Over the next 4 months, I made sure she knew I was interested. I'd find reasons to be outside when she was outside. I'd wave, say something that was supposed to be funny, ask about the dog. On her birthday, I sent flowers to her door. Nothing excessive, just enough to say I'm still here and I'm not going anywhere. She texted me a thank you that night and added a smiley face. I stared at that emoji like it was a signed contract. Slowly, she came around. We started going out. Saturday lunch, a weekday movie, then longer nights, closer seats, her shoulder leaning into mine like she was testing whether I could hold the weight of her trust without dropping it. But even as things got good, I could feel something she kept locked behind her. A wall, not cold, not hostile, just there. Like a door she'd closed a long time ago and wasn't sure she wanted to open again. One night, sitting on her front steps, she told me her last relationship had ended badly. She didn't give details, just said she'd been hurt in a way that made her question whether she could trust anyone again. Her voice was steady when she said it, but her hands were gripping her knees like she was holding herself in place. I told her she didn't have to worry about me, that I would never do anything to hurt her. I meant it when I said it. That's the part that makes everything that happened after so much worse. I wasn't lying. Not then. I genuinely believed I was the guy who would be different. The one who would prove her wrong about men, about trust, about all of it. I looked at that woman sitting on those steps with her bruised heart and her careful words, and I thought, I'm going to be the one who stays. 5 months in, I was happy. The kind of happy where you catch yourself smiling in your car for no reason. Michelle was warm, steady, real in a way that made everything else feel manageable. I loved the routine of us. Walking the dog together after dinner, bad reality shows on her couch, Sunday grilling while she read on the porch. Nothing cinematic, just life fitting together the way it's supposed to when two people actually like each other. I remember thinking one evening, watching her laugh at something the dog did, this full, unguarded laugh that completely changed her face, that I was the luckiest guy on Dawson Lane. I was wrong about that too. Then, one Sunday afternoon, everything shifted. We were sitting out front, enjoying the weather, not doing much of anything, when a car pulled up in front of the house next door to hers. Dark sedan, looked like a rideshare. The back door opened and a girl stepped out. 2 large backpacks, one over each shoulder. She walked toward the neighbor's gate without looking around much. I'd never seen her before. But Michelle had. I felt her body lock beside me. Every muscle, all at once, like someone had flipped a switch inside her. She stared at the girl with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Not anger exactly, something older than anger, something that had been sleeping and had just been woken up by the sound of a car door closing. Then, under her breath, almost to herself, she said it. I can't believe that witch is back. I turned. You know her. I'd rather not talk about it. Her voice had gone flat. Dead. Come on. Who is she? She's the daughter of a neighbor. Used to live here. Moved away almost a year ago. She paused, and her jaw tightened so hard I could see the muscle move beneath her skin. I thought she was gone for good. I waited for more. She gave me nothing. Just this wall of silence and a look on her face like something rotten had crawled back into a place she'd spent a long time cleaning. I noticed the girl glance in our direction before she disappeared through the gate. Even from across the street, I could tell she was attractive. Something about the way she carried herself, a confidence that seemed almost deliberate, like she knew exactly what she looked like and had learned a long time ago how to use it. I let it go. Michelle didn't want to talk about it, and I figured whatever had happened between them was old news. Girl drama, history, petty stuff from the past that didn't have anything to do with me. I should have pushed harder. I should have taken her hand and said, "Tell me everything right now, whatever it is, and I will believe you." Because the fact that Michelle, one of the calmest, most measured people I had ever met, couldn't even look at this girl without her entire body going rigid, that should have told me this wasn't small. That should have set off every alarm I had. But I was comfortable. I was happy. And comfortable, happy people don't go looking for information that might complicate what they've got. So I let it pass, filed it away, forgot about it. That was the fork in the road, right there, on that porch, on that Sunday afternoon. And I walked straight past it without even slowing down. Her name was Tara. I found that out 2 weeks later at a gas station on the main road near our street. I was filling up, not thinking about anything, when she appeared beside my car like she'd materialized from nowhere. She recognized me from the neighborhood, smiled, walked over. Up close, she was harder to ignore, than she'd been from across the street. Sharp features, easy smile, the kind of eye contact that holds just a little too long, just enough to make you wonder whether it means something. She introduced herself, said she used to be friends with Michelle, grew up practically next door to her. I asked what happened between them. She shrugged. Nothing happened. Michelle's just dramatic like that. That sentence should have ended the conversation. Because people who dismiss someone else's pain as drama are almost always the ones who caused it. I knew that. Somewhere in the back of my brain, behind the part that was noticing how her lips moved when she talked and how she tilted her head when she laughed, I knew that sentence was a red flag the size of a bedsheet. But she kept talking. What do you do for work? How long have you been on Dawson Lane? Are you from Texas? She leaned in a little when she asked, touched her hair, laughed at things that weren't funny. I noticed all of it, and I hate myself for admitting this, but I liked it. I drove home that afternoon with her face stuck in my head like a song I couldn't stop humming, told myself it was nothing, a pretty girl being friendly at a gas station, no big deal. Except that night, lying in bed next to the kind of silence that falls when your mind is somewhere it shouldn't be, I didn't think about Michelle. I didn't think about the woman who had spent 5 months slowly learning to trust me, who had opened a door she'd sworn she'd never open again, who had told me about her pain and asked me to be careful with it. I thought about Tara, about the way she smiled, about the way she said my name, about the way standing next to her felt like standing next to something electric and dangerous and alive. And I told myself it didn't mean anything, but it meant everything. Because that gas station was the exact moment the game started. I just didn't know I was a piece on somebody else's board. And the woman lying awake across the street, the one who had seen that car pull up and known immediately what was coming, she was already counting down the days until I proved her right. It started with a text. 3 days after the gas station, my phone buzzed while I was eating dinner at Michelle's kitchen table. Unknown number. I opened it and saw 4 words. Hey neighbor. It's Tara. I stared at the screen for maybe 2 seconds. Michelle was across the table cutting into a piece of chicken, talking about something that had happened at work. I don't remember what. I don't remember a single word she said that night. What I remember is the way my thumb moved on its own, typing back before the rational part of my brain had time to object. Hey, how'd you get my number? She said she'd asked around, said she hoped that was okay, said she just wanted someone to talk to since she'd moved back and didn't really know anybody on the street anymore. It sounded innocent. Maybe it was, at the very beginning. Maybe even Tara doesn't plan these things out in advance. Maybe the instinct kicks in later, once she's identified the target and measured the gap between what he has and what she can offer. I don't know. What I know is that I should have deleted the message and told Michelle about it that night, right there at the table, in the light, where secrets can't breathe. Instead, I saved the number under a fake name and kept eating. The texts started slow. Good morning. How's your day? Random observations about the street. The kind of surface-level conversation that feels harmless because it is harmless at first. But Tara had a rhythm. She knew exactly how to build frequency without triggering alarm. 1 text a day became 2. 2 became 4. 4 became a running conversation that started when I woke up and didn't stop until one of us fell asleep. She asked about my life, my job, my family, what I wanted out of the next 5 years. And she listened, or at least she performed listening so well that I couldn't tell the difference. She remembered small things I'd mentioned days earlier. She asked follow-up questions. She made me feel like the most interesting person on that street, which looking back is exactly the feeling you manufacture when you're trying to pull someone out of a relationship without them noticing. Michelle noticed. Not the texts. I was careful about that, but she noticed the shift, the same way you notice when a room's temperature drops 1 degree at a time, not enough to make you say something, just enough to make you reach for a sweater. I was checking my phone more, smiling at the screen and then going blank when she asked what was funny, losing track of conversations, showing up 15 minutes late to things we'd planned because I'd been sitting in my car finishing a message. Little things, meaningless things, if you looked at each one in isolation. But Michelle didn't look at them in isolation. She looked at the pattern. Because she'd seen this pattern before. She started making comments. Small ones at first. "You're on your phone a lot lately." Then sharper. "Who are you texting at 11 at night?" I deflected. "Work stuff, a buddy from the warehouse, my cousin." The lies came easily, and each one sat in my stomach like a coin dropped in dirty water. Then one afternoon she caught me waving at Tara from the driveway. A simple wave, nothing more than that. But Michelle was standing right beside me, and the look on her face when she saw who I was waving at told me everything I needed to know about how much danger I was in and how little I cared. "Why are you even acknowledging her?" I was just being polite. "You don't need to be polite to her, Nathan." Her voice had an edge I hadn't heard before, not jealousy, something deeper. Something that sounded like a woman standing at the edge of a cliff she'd already fallen off twice, watching the ground give way again and being unable to do anything about it except describe the sound it makes. I told myself she was overreacting, that she was possessive, insecure, still carrying whatever old grudge she had from the past. I told myself the problem was hers. It wasn't hers. It was never hers. The problem was standing in my driveway, waving at the woman who was systematically dismantling my relationship, and the problem had my face. About a month after Tara moved back, I crossed a line I can never uncross. It was a Thursday. Tara had been texting me all day. Longer messages than usual, more flirtatious. Little comments about how she felt like she could talk to me in a way she couldn't talk to anyone else. Late in the afternoon, she mentioned a bar downtown. Little place on Magnolia. Said she was going that evening and it would be fun if I came. I told Michelle I was meeting a buddy from work. The lie came out of my mouth so smoothly it terrified me. Not because it was hard to say, but because it wasn't. Because somewhere between the first text and that moment, I'd become a person who could look at the woman who trusted him, the woman who had warned him she'd been hurt before, the woman who had specifically said, "I knew this would happen. It always happens," and lie to her face without flinching. I drove downtown, found the bar. Tara was sitting in a corner booth with a drink already in front of her. She'd dressed up. Not a lot, just enough. The kind of effort that's supposed to look effortless but never is. We talked for 2 hours. The conversation was easy in a way that felt like falling. Every time she laughed, I leaned in. Every time her knee brushed mine under the table, I didn't move away. Every time she looked at me with that steady, focused attention, I felt seen in a way that I now understand was manufactured. She wasn't seeing me. She was aiming at me. Somewhere around the third drink, the talking stopped and something else took its place. She looked at me a certain way. I looked at her a certain way. And we both knew what was about to happen. It happened. I won't dress it up. I won't soften it. I cheated on my girlfriend that night. I cheated on the woman who had opened a door she'd sworn she would never open again. The woman who had specifically told me she was terrified of being hurt. The woman who had seen Tara step out of that car and known with the certainty of someone who had already lived through this nightmare twice, exactly what was coming. And the worst part wasn't the guilt. The worst part was that I didn't feel enough guilt. Because all I could think about driving home, passing under the highway lights with Tara's perfume still on my shirt, was when I would see her again. I was already gone. I just hadn't told anyone yet. 2 weeks later, I ended things with Michelle. I sat across from her at her kitchen table, the same table where I'd eaten her food and held her hand and told her she could trust me, and I watched her face change in real time as she understood what I was saying. Confusion first, then disbelief, then this slow sinking recognition, like watching someone realize the ship they're standing on has been taking on water for hours and there's no way to bail fast enough. "What did I do?" she asked. Her voice cracked on the last word. "Nothing. You didn't do anything. It's me." That doesn't make sense, Nathan. Everything was fine. We were fine. I couldn't tell her the truth. Not the full truth. I said something vague about needing space, about feeling different, about things not being right in my head. Stock phrases, the kind of empty words men use when they want to leave without carrying the weight of why. She sat there for a long time, just looking at me. Those brown eyes, the ones that had taken 5 months to fully open, staring at me with something that was already closing again. Then she said it. "This is why I didn't want to get involved. With you. With anyone." Her voice was quiet, steady, but her hands were trembling on the table. I knew this would happen. It always happens. At the time, I thought she was talking about men in general, about relationships failing, about the universal risk of letting someone in and watching them leave. I didn't know she was talking about a specific pattern, a specific woman, a specific kind of destruction she had already survived twice and was now surviving for the third time because of me. She cried after that, not loudly, just tears running down her face while she sat perfectly still, like a person who has practiced absorbing pain so many times that the body knows how to do it without making a sound. I told her I was sorry. I told her I never meant to hurt her. Both things were true. Both things were completely useless. I left her house that night feeling like the worst person on Dawson Lane. I was right about that. I just didn't know the full scope of how right I was. After the breakup, Tara and I went public. I tried to keep it quiet at first, met her across town, avoided being seen together near the house. I told myself I was being considerate, protecting Michelle's feelings. That's another lie I told myself. I wasn't protecting her feelings. I was protecting my image. There's a difference, and the difference says everything about who I was during that time. Secrets don't survive on streets that small. Within weeks, Michelle knew everything. I expected a confrontation, screaming, a knock on my door at midnight, something loud enough to match the size of what I'd done. Instead, she went silent, blocked my number, deleted me from everything. When we crossed paths on the street, she looked through me like I was made of glass. No anger, no tears, no reaction at all. Just this cold, complete erasure, like I had been removed from her life with surgical precision and the wound had already been sealed shut. That silence was worse than any fight, because a fight means someone still cares enough to be angry. Silence means they've already finished with you. I told myself she'd get over it. People always do, right? That's what I told myself while I spent my nights with Tara, building what I thought was a real relationship on top of the wreckage of someone else's trust. Months passed. Tara and I became comfortable, familiar, the kind of couple that stops trying so hard because they think what they have is solid. Weekends at the lake, cooking dinner together, falling asleep on the couch. By the time we were nearing 11 months, I thought I'd found my person. I thought the story was over. The story was just getting started. It began with a car pulling into Michelle's driveway on a Sunday afternoon. We were coming back from the park, Tara and I, when I spotted Michelle standing at her front gate. She wasn't alone. There was a guy with her. Tall, decent-looking, standing close enough that the distance between their bodies said everything. When Michelle saw my car, something crossed her face. She turned quickly and went inside with him, like she didn't want to be seen. Tara leaned forward in the passenger seat. Her eyes narrowed. "Well, look at that." Little Miss Perfect found herself a new boyfriend. The edge in her voice should have stopped me cold. The smirk on her face should have made my blood freeze, because that wasn't the voice of a woman making a casual observation. That was the voice of someone whose attention had just been triggered, like a hunter hearing a branch snap in the distance. But I was an idiot. So I shrugged and thought, good for Michelle, she deserves to move on. His name was Kyle, and I learned it the following Saturday in a way that planted the first real seed of doubt in my chest. I came home from work and found Tara standing on the sidewalk in front of our houses talking to him. Just the two of them. He was leaning against the fence, arms crossed, relaxed. She was standing close, head tilted. That smile. The same smile she'd given me at the gas station a year earlier. My stomach dropped before my brain could explain why. I walked over, kissed Tara on the cheek, shook Kyle's hand. Before I could say anything, Tara jumped in. "Hey babe, I was just chatting with Kyle here. He came to see Michelle, but she's not home yet." Then she looked at Kyle and said something that made no sense to me at the time. "Did you know Nathan used to date Michelle?" She paused, glanced at me, and smiled. They were still together when he and I first met. I stared at her. The words hung in the air between the three of us, and for a second, nobody moved. Kyle's face shifted, a tiny flinch of discomfort he tried to hide. And I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Something more like the first vibration of an earthquake that hasn't reached the surface yet. Why would she say that? Why would she volunteer that information to a man she'd just met? What possible reason could there be for telling Michelle's new boyfriend that I had cheated on Michelle with her? Unless the information wasn't meant to inform him, unless it was meant to test him. I pulled Tara inside. She came along easily enough, but something in her was different that night. Distant, quiet. Not cold, but not warm either. Like her attention had been redirected somewhere else, and I was just background noise. Over the following days, I felt it more clearly. She wasn't as interested when I talked. She didn't reach for my hand when we walked. The late-night texts stopped. The flirtation dried up. The whole temperature of the relationship dropped, degree by degree, so slowly that I kept telling myself I was imagining it. I wasn't imagining it. I was watching the same thing Michelle had watched. The same slow withdrawal. The same quiet pulling away. The same methodical disengagement that happens when a person is already mentally invested in someone new and is just waiting for the right moment to make the switch. I just didn't recognize it because I'd never been on this side of it before. 3 weeks after I first saw her talking to Kyle, Tara sat down across from me at the kitchen table, set down her glass, and said it with the kind of flatness you use when the decision was made days ago and the conversation is just paperwork. I want to break up. I blinked. Break up? Yes? You're joking. I'm not joking, Nathan. Where is this coming from? We were fine. Everything was fine. She shook her head. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a while. I think we both know it's not working. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything close to that. I sat there trying to argue, trying to find the words that would change her mind, and I watched her face while I did it. Her eyes were clear. Her voice was steady. There was nothing behind them I recognized. No sadness, no regret, no hesitation. She'd already left. She was just making it official. And as I sat there, mouth open, chest caving in, the first real thought that wasn't about my own pain arrived like a knife to the base of my skull. This is how Michelle felt. This exact moment, this exact table, this exact look on the face of the person telling you it's over while you sit there wondering what you missed. This is what I did to her. I spent the next few days in a fog, that numb, heavy state where your body keeps moving, but your brain is stuck on repeat. She left me. She left me. She actually left me. Then it got worse. Within a week, the neighborhood started whispering, a comment from a neighbor, a look from someone at the store, the kind of information that travels through a street like smoke under a door. Tara was with Kyle, Michelle's Kyle, the guy I'd seen her talking to on the sidewalk, the one she'd smiled at with that tilted head and that easy posture, and that specific kind of attention I now recognized because she'd pointed it at me once, in a gas station parking lot, a lifetime ago. She'd left me for him, and he'd left Michelle for her. And suddenly, like a photograph developing in reverse, the pattern was right there in front of me, so obvious and so ugly that I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it before. The way she'd dismissed Michelle's pain at the gas station. She's just dramatic. Not an answer, a deflection, a line she'd rehearsed because she'd used it before. The way she'd told Kyle about my history with Michelle, not random, not careless, strategic. She was planting a seed, telling him, without saying it directly, that Michelle's boyfriends were available. That loyalty on this street had a price, and she already knew what it was. The way she'd changed after meeting Kyle, the distance, the silence, the slow withdrawal. Not about me at all. I was occupying a seat she needed to vacate. I was a stepping stone between Michelle's last heartbreak and her next one. And the realization that hit me last and hit me hardest, the one that landed in my stomach like a swallowed stone and has never fully dissolved. Tara had never wanted me. Not really. Not as a person. I was Michelle's boyfriend. That was my value. That was all my value. Not who I was, not what I offered, not anything real or true about me as a man. I was a thing that belonged to Michelle, and Tara wanted to take it. The same way she'd taken the one before me. The same way she was now taking Kyle. It was never about the man. It was about the taking. Every kiss, every text, every night I spent thinking about her. Every lie I told Michelle. Every time I chose Tara over the woman who actually cared about me. All of it had been part of a game I didn't know existed. Played on a board I couldn't see, by someone who had been practicing the same moves for years. And I'd played my part perfectly. I went inside that night and sat in the dark for a long time. For the next few weeks I lived inside a kind of silence I'd never experienced before. Not quiet, silence. The kind that fills a room when there's no one to call, no one to text, no one waiting for you on the other side of anything. I went to work. I came home. I sat on the couch and stared at whatever was on the screen without seeing it. I ate food I couldn't taste. I slept in short, broken stretches and woke up each time with the same thought already loaded in my head like a round in a chamber. She used me, not in the way people usually mean when they say that, not for money or status or a place to stay. Tara used me the way someone uses a tool, picked me up when I served a purpose, put me down when the job was done. And the purpose was never about me. It was about Michelle. I was just the instrument. That thought sat in my chest every hour of every day, and no amount of rationalizing could dissolve it. I'd see Tara and Kyle around the neighborhood, walking down the sidewalk, getting into his car, sitting on her porch with their legs touching. She looked happy, the same kind of happy she'd looked with me, back when I still believed I was special. That easy smile, that effortless warmth, that performance of intimacy so convincing you'd bet your life it was real. Kyle had the same look I used to have, that grin, that looseness, the confidence of a man who thinks he's been chosen for something rare. He didn't know yet. He didn't know he was sitting in a seat that had been occupied before, that the warmth he was feeling had been manufactured before, that the woman leaning into his shoulder had leaned into mine the exact same way 6 months earlier, and into someone else's the exact same way before that. I wanted to warn him, almost did once. Saw him checking his mailbox one morning and walked toward him, the words already forming in my mouth. But I stopped, because what would I say? Your girlfriend is going to leave you the second Michelle starts dating someone new. He'd think I was bitter. He'd think I was jealous. He'd think I was exactly the kind of guy who can't handle losing and tries to ruin it for the next person. And maybe I was bitter, but I was also right. I didn't say anything, just nodded at him and kept walking. Some nights I'd lie in bed and think about Michelle, not Tara. Michelle. The way she used to laugh when the dog did something stupid. This full, unguarded sound that rearranged her whole face. The way she'd bring me water without being asked when I was working in the garage. The way she'd fall asleep on my shoulder during movies, and I'd sit perfectly still so I wouldn't wake her, even when my arm went completely numb. I missed her, not in the dramatic way, in the quiet way, the kind of missing that doesn't announce itself. It just shows up at 2 in the morning and sits on your chest and reminds you, calmly, specifically, in detail, of everything you had and everything you threw away and exactly whose fault it was. I thought about going to her door, knocking, apologizing, not to get her back. I'd lost that right, just to say I finally understood, that she'd been right about everything, that I was sorry, not just for hurting her, but for being the kind of man who could be so easily played. I never went, because apologies are supposed to fix something, and this wasn't fixable. What do you say to a woman who tried to protect you from the exact thing that happened, and you ignored her, betrayed her, and then watched her go through it a third time because you helped set the stage? There aren't words for that. There's just the silence afterward, and the knowledge that you earned every second of it. Then one evening, about a month after Tara ended things, it happened. I was sitting on my front porch, not doing anything, just existing in that empty, mechanical way you exist when grief has flattened you into a routine that doesn't require thought. The street was quiet. The light was fading. I was staring at the pavement like it owed me something. Then I heard her voice. Nathan. I looked up. Michelle was standing on the sidewalk, just past the edge of my yard, arms folded tight across her chest, like she was holding herself together with physical force. I hadn't heard her say my name in months. I'd almost forgotten what it sounded like in her voice. I stood up slowly. Michelle, Come here." Something was different. She wasn't angry, she wasn't cold. She looked tired. Not the kind you get from a long day. The deep kind. The kind that settles behind your eyes when you've been carrying something too heavy for too long, and your body has just stopped trying to hide it. I walked to the fence. She didn't step closer. She stood there on the concrete, looking at me like she was deciding whether I was worth the breath she was about to spend. "So," she said, "I take it you already know about your girlfriend and Kyle." I didn't answer right away. The words stuck somewhere between my throat and my teeth. "Yeah. I found out." She nodded. One slow nod like she'd expected that answer a long time ago. "And how does it feel?" I deserved that. I knew I deserved that. So I stood there and took it. But she wasn't done. Not even close. She unfolded her arms and lifted her right hand, held it up between us, fingers spread, and then slowly curled two of them down, leaving three standing. 3 fingers. Index, middle, ring. She held them there steady, and looked at me the way a doctor looks at you right before the sentence that changes everything. "Kyle is the 3rd boyfriend she's taken from me." The words landed, but my brain wouldn't process them. It was like someone had handed me a sentence in a language I almost spoke but couldn't quite translate. "What?" "You heard me. 3. Kyle is number 3. That's not... What are you talking about?" She lowered her hand but didn't break eye contact. "Not for a second. You want the whole story?" "Fine, I'll give you the whole story, since apparently I'm the only person on this street willing to tell the truth." She took a breath. The kind that comes before something that's going to hurt both the person saying it and the person hearing it. The first one was Derek. She said his name the way you say a word you've trained yourself to pronounce without flinching, even though it still cuts the inside of your mouth every time. Derek and Michelle had been together for over 2 years. They were engaged. Not just dating, not just talking about a future in that vague, comfortable way people do when they're not ready to commit, but not brave enough to admit it. He'd proposed. She'd said yes. They were planning a wedding. Venue booked. Dress bought. A date circled on a calendar that was supposed to mean something. Tara was supposed to be a bridesmaid. She let that sentence land before continuing. They'd been best friends, the real kind. Grew up on the same block, walked to school together, knew each other's families, shared secrets the way kids do before they learn that some people collect secrets the way others collect weapons. Tara started showing up at Derek's job, texting him late, finding reasons to be around when Michelle wasn't. Small things. The kind of things that don't mean anything until you line them all up in a row and see the direction they're pointing. Michelle noticed, but she brushed it off. Because that was her best friend. Because trust, real trust, the kind built over years and sleepovers and shared diaries, doesn't break on suspicion alone. It takes evidence. And by the time the evidence arrived, it was already too late. The engagement ended 5 months before the wedding. Derek sat her down and said he'd developed feelings for someone else. He didn't say who. He didn't have to. Because 2 weeks later, Tara and Derek were seen together at a restaurant across town, sitting on the same side of the booth, and the photograph someone took and sent to Michelle showed a woman she'd known her entire life leaning her head on the shoulder of the man who was supposed to be standing at the altar waiting for her. Michelle told me this part quickly, like ripping tape off skin. She didn't describe how it felt to lose a fiancé and a best friend in the same month. She didn't have to. I could hear it in the spaces between her words, in the way her jaw tightened every time she said Tara's name, in the way her voice went flat and mechanical, like a person reading a report about their own autopsy. Derek and Tara lasted about 8 months. Then it fell apart. Michelle didn't know the details and didn't care. By then, Tara had moved away, and Michelle spent the next year trying to put herself back together, learning how to sleep again, learning how to trust again, learning how to look at a man without waiting for the trap door to open beneath her. She paused, looked at me, and for a moment, her face softened into something that wasn't anger or exhaustion. It was grief. Old, settled grief. The kind that doesn't scream anymore. It just lives in your bones and shows up in the way you hold your shoulders. "That's why I didn't want to date anyone," she said. When you showed up with your flowers and your smiles, I liked you. I did. But I was terrified. Because the last time I let someone in, she was standing right behind me, waiting. I felt something fracture inside my chest. Not break. Fracture. Like the wall I'd built to protect my version of events was splitting down the center, and behind it was something I'd been refusing to see. And then she came back, Michelle said. I saw her get out of that car with her bags, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. I tried to warn you without saying too much because I didn't want to relive the whole thing. I thought maybe if I just kept you away from her, it wouldn't happen again. She paused, swallowed. But you couldn't stay away, could you? No, I couldn't. And hearing her say it, hearing the exhaustion in her voice, the absence of surprise, the way she delivered the sentence like a fact she'd already accepted long before she ever said it out loud, I understood for the first time what Michelle had been carrying. It wasn't jealousy, it wasn't drama, it wasn't pettiness or insecurity or any of the words I'd used to explain away her behavior while I was busy falling for the woman who was destroying her. It was fear. Real, earned, proven fear. The kind that doesn't come from anxiety or imagination. The kind that comes from watching the same thing happen twice and knowing with absolute certainty that it's about to happen again and being unable to stop it because the person you're trying to warn is already gone. She'd watched me leave, the same way she'd watched Derek leave. And now she was watching Kyle walk the same path, following the same footprints, heading toward the same cliff, and she couldn't do anything but stand at the edge and count the bodies. I was number 2. Derek was number 1. Kyle was number 3. And the worst part, the part that made my legs feel like they were going to give out right there on that sidewalk, was that I'd handed myself over willingly. Tara didn't have to try hard. A few smiles, some late-night texts, one evening at a bar. That's all it took for me to throw away a woman who actually loved me like she was nothing. Because that's what Tara understood about men like me. She understood that new is louder than safe, that excitement drowns out steady, that a man who is comfortable will almost always mistake familiar for boring and reach for the thing that sparkles, even if the thing that sparkles is a knife. Michelle stood there watching me absorb it. I think she expected me to argue. To minimize. To do what men do when the truth makes them small. But I didn't have anything. My mouth was open, but nothing came out. I was standing on a sidewalk in suburban Texas, watching the entire last year of my life rearrange itself into a shape I couldn't deny. And every version of the story I'd told myself to feel okay about what I'd done was collapsing, one by one, like dominoes falling in a line that ended at my own feet. I'm not telling you this to get back at you, she said quietly. I'm telling you because I'm done. I'm done watching her do this and pretending it doesn't destroy me every single time. I just needed one person, just one, to know what she is. She turned and walked back across the street. She didn't look back. She didn't slam a door. She just walked into her house the way someone walks into a room where they've been crying alone for a long time and are about to start again. I stood on that sidewalk for I don't know how long. 5 minutes, 10, maybe more. Long enough for the streetlights to click on, long enough for the sky to go from grey to that deep purple that settles in right before full dark. My legs didn't want to move. My brain was running through every interaction, every moment, rewinding the entire year and seeing everything I'd been too blind or too selfish to notice. Tara shrugging at the gas station. She's just dramatic. That wasn't a description. That was a strategy. A single sentence designed to make me dismiss the one person who could have told me the truth. Tara telling Kyle about my history with Michelle. That wasn't small talk. That was reconnaissance. She was testing his loyalty before she made her move. Tara changing after she met Kyle. The distance, the silence, the slow withdrawal. That wasn't about me falling short. That was about her moving on. I wasn't losing her because I'd done something wrong. I was losing her because she'd found her next target, and the seat I was sitting in needed to be empty. And the final piece, the one that hit me last and sank the deepest. Every time Tara came back to Dawson Lane, she wasn't coming back for a fresh start. She was coming back for Michelle, not to reconnect, not to make amends, to find whatever Michelle had built in her absence and tear it down. It was never about the men. The men were interchangeable. We were tools, vehicles, delivery systems for a kind of cruelty so specific and so patient that it almost looked like coincidence from the outside. But it wasn't coincidence. It was architecture. And Michelle had been living inside that architecture for years, watching it close in around her, unable to explain it to anyone because from the outside, it just looked like bad luck with men. I stood there on that sidewalk until my feet ached from standing still. And when I finally turned and walked back inside, I sat down on my couch in the dark and did something I hadn't done since I was a kid. I cried. Not for Tara, not for myself, for Michelle. For the woman who had tried to save me and watched me choose the knife instead. For the woman who had built something real with me and watched me burn it down for someone who saw her happiness as a target. For the woman who had stood on that sidewalk with 3 fingers in the air and the quietest voice I'd ever heard, and told me the truth that nobody else on that street had ever bothered to see. 3 boyfriends, 3 times, the same woman, the same pattern, the same destruction dressed up as romance and served to men who were too blind and too vain and too easily flattered to see it for what it was. And I was one of them. That was the part I couldn't outrun. Not that I'd been manipulated, not that I'd been used, but that I'd been willing, that some part of me, some selfish, hungry, reckless part, had looked at what Tara was offering and chosen it over something real, because real wasn't exciting enough. Michelle didn't deserve any of it. Not Derek, not me, not Kyle, not a single second of the pain she'd been handed by a woman she once called her best friend, and there was nothing I could do to fix it. Nothing anyone could do. Because the damage wasn't a broken window you could replace or a wall you could patch. It was the kind of damage that changes the shape of a person from the inside out, the kind that makes someone sit alone in their car in their own driveway, staring at their own front door, gathering the strength to walk into their own house. I'd seen her do that, sitting in her car, hands on the wheel, engine off, staring at nothing. And now I understood what she'd been doing in that moment. She'd been trying to remember why any of it was worth walking back into. The weeks after that conversation were the loneliest I've ever lived through. Not because I was alone. I'd been alone before, and it had never felt like this. This was different. This was the loneliness of understanding. The kind that comes after you finally see the full picture of what you've done and realize there's no version of the future where you get to undo it. I thought about going to Michelle's door every single day. I'd get as far as my front steps, look across the street at her house and stop. Because what would I say? I'm sorry doesn't cover it. I believe you now doesn't fix it. I see what she is, doesn't give her back the years she spent rebuilding herself, only to watch someone tear it all down again with the same hands wearing a different face. Some apologies are too small for the damage they're supposed to address. Mine was one of them. So I stayed on my side of the street, and she stayed on hers. And the distance between us, maybe 50 feet of asphalt that I used to cross without thinking, became the widest gap I've ever failed to close. Kyle was still with Tara. I'd see them around. He walked through the neighborhood like a man who thought he'd figured life out. That easy grin, that loose, confident posture. The body language of someone who has no idea he's standing in the exact spot where the last guy stood, wearing the exact same expression, feeling the exact same certainty that what he had was real. I recognized that walk. I recognized that grin. I recognized all of it because 12 months earlier that had been me, same street, same woman, same delusion. One morning I saw him checking his mailbox and I stopped on the sidewalk. He looked up and smiled at me, this friendly, oblivious, completely trusting smile, and something inside me cracked because I knew what was coming for him. Not today, not next week, maybe not even next month. But eventually, inevitably, the moment Michelle let someone new into her life, Tara's attention would shift. The warmth would cool, the texts would slow, the machine would start again. And Kyle would end up standing on this same street, looking at this same pavement, wondering what happened the same way I was standing here now. I opened my mouth. I was going to say it. All of it. The pattern, the history, the 3 fingers. Everything Michelle had told me. I was going to grab this man by the shoulders and shake him until he could see what I could see. But I didn't, because I remembered being him. I remembered being the guy who thought he was different, who thought the rules didn't apply to him because a beautiful woman had chosen him, and that had to mean something. And I remembered that no one could have told me the truth back then because I wouldn't have listened, the same way Kyle wouldn't listen now. So I just nodded, and I kept walking. Tara will do it again. I'm certain of that now. Not because she's evil in the way people use that word in movies, with plans and speeches and visible cruelty, but because whatever drives her, whatever broken thing inside her needs to take what belongs to Michelle, it isn't finished. It won't be finished until there's nothing left to take, or until Michelle stops building altogether. And that's the thought that haunts me most. Not what Tara did to me. I can live with that. I made my choices. I earned my consequences. But the idea that Michelle might one day stop trying, might one day decide that love isn't worth the risk, because every time she opens the door, the same woman walks through it and takes everything, that idea sits in my chest like something I swallowed that won't dissolve. 2 months after the night on the sidewalk, I watched Michelle leave Dawson Lane. It was a Tuesday morning. I was standing at my bedroom window when I saw the moving truck parked in front of her house. 2 guys were carrying boxes down her porch steps. Her friend's car was in the driveway, engine running, and Michelle was standing on the sidewalk, taking one last look at the house she'd lived in for years. The house where she'd laughed with her dog and read books on the porch and fallen asleep on my shoulder, and tried 3 separate times to build something good with someone who was supposed to stay. She got in the car. The door closed. And as the car pulled away, passing right in front of my house, she didn't look over. She didn't wave. She didn't glance at my window or my door or my porch or any of the places where I'd once stood and told her she could trust me. She just stared straight ahead, the way people stare when they're leaving a place that took everything from them and they've decided to stop expecting it to give anything back. The car turned the corner and disappeared. I stood at that window for a long time after, looking at her empty house, the dark windows, the still porch, the driveway where I'd once seen her sitting alone in her car, hands on the wheel, engine off, staring at her own front door, trying to find a reason to walk inside. Now there was no car, no dog, no light in the kitchen, no one watering plants in the evening, no one left to take anything from. Tara had won, not because she was smarter or stronger or better, because she was more patient, because she understood something about human nature that most people don't want to admit, that loyalty is fragile, that attention is currency, and that most men, when given the choice between something safe and something shiny, will reach for the shine every single time. I was proof of that. Derek was proof of that. Kyle would be proof of that too, eventually, and Michelle was the one who paid every time the proof arrived. I still live on Dawson Lane. I still see Tara and Kyle together. I still nod at him when we pass each other, and I still swallow the words I'll never say, and I still go inside afterward and sit in the quiet of a house that feels emptier than it should. And every night when I close my eyes, I see it. 3 fingers, held steady in the fading light, old. A woman's voice, calm and exhausted and completely done, saying the sentence that rearranged my entire understanding of the past year and every choice I'd made inside it. Kyle is the 3rd boyfriend she's taken from me. Some nights I think about what would have happened if I'd listened. If that Sunday afternoon when the car pulled up and Michelle went rigid beside me, I had taken her hand and said, "Tell me. Whatever it is, tell me, and I'll believe you." Maybe she would have. Maybe I would have seen Tara for what she was, before she ever had a chance to smile at me. Maybe I'd still be sitting on that porch with Michelle right now, watching the dog do something stupid, laughing that laugh I can still hear when the house gets too quiet. But I didn't ask, and she didn't tell. And the car door opened and the girl stepped out with 2 backpacks and a smile I mistook for warmth, and everything that happened after that was already written. I used to think the worst thing a person could do to you was lie to your face. I was wrong. The worst thing is when someone tells you the truth, quietly, carefully, with everything they have left, and you look at them and decide they're being dramatic. Michelle wasn't dramatic, she was a prophet, and I was too busy staring at the fire to hear the woman screaming that the house was burning down. 3 fingers, 3 men, 3 chances she lost. I was one of them, and the house across the street is still empty. What would you do in this situation? Be honest, or did this remind you of someone? Tell me in the comments. And if this made you think about your own relationship, I left something in the description that can help you build something stronger. Subscribe if you want more stories like this every day, and share this with someone who needs to hear this story.